My father-in-law told my kids, "Your mom's a burden. You'll understand when you're older." Then told me, "It's a shame you can't just disappear." I stared at him and said, "Be careful what you wish for." I filed papers the next day that took everyone by surprise. Now they're calling me 14 times a day. I'm not the kind of woman who likes drama. I keep my head down, work hard, and try to do right by my family. That's what I was raised to do. I grew up in Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Small town. Folks know your business, whether you like it or not. But I never cared much for gossip or keeping up appearances. I just wanted to raise good kids, have a solid marriage, and stay out of trouble. I married Shane when I was 23. We met through mutual friends when he was in town visiting from Charlotte. He was charming back then, kind of the life of the party but still responsible. I liked that about him. He made me laugh. He wasn't like the guys I grew up with, all trucks and beer and nothing else going on. Shane had ambition, worked in real estate, and talked about building a future. I thought I was marrying a man with a plan. At first, it was okay. We moved into a small house his parents helped us buy just outside Wilkesboro, on the edge of a wooded area with barely a neighbor in sight. It was peaceful. His job was in Charlotte, but he worked remote often and commuted when he had to. I stayed home, raised our 2 kids, Maggie and Joel. We lived pretty simply. I homeschooled them for a while when they were young, and Shane's parents, Dennis and Claudia, helped out from time to time. Well, Claudia helped. Dennis never liked me. Not from day one. He thought I was beneath Shane. I could feel it. He'd never say it outright in the beginning, but the way he looked me up and down said enough. Like I was the discount version of the daughter-in-law he hoped for. He'd say things like, "You know, Shane could have married up, but he's loyal, I'll give him that." Or, "You're a good mom, I'll give you that. Not every woman is built for much more." I always bit my tongue. For Shane. For the kids. For peace. But peace doesn't last when it's built on quiet disrespect. After I had Maggie, I got sick. Not hospital bed sick, but slow, lingering, back and forth kind of sick. I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia after years of pain, fatigue, and the kind of invisible suffering that people like Dennis call dramatic. Some days I couldn't walk up the stairs without crying. My joints burned, my head pounded, and exhaustion never left. I wasn't lazy. I wasn't giving up. I was surviving. Shane was supportive, at first. He adjusted his hours, helped more around the house, and even came with me to a few doctor appointments. But over time, I could feel his frustration. I get it. It's hard living with someone who's always in pain. But what's harder is being the one in pain and knowing the people around you have stopped believing you. That was the beginning of the distance. Little things. Shane staying in Charlotte more often for work, coming home late, being short with me, letting his father's attitude toward me creep into his own words. One time, I asked him if he could pick up the kids from school because I was in a flare-up so bad I couldn't get out of bed. He sighed, and I mean really sighed, and said, "I didn't sign up for this." That one stuck. Like a thorn in my chest I couldn't pull out. Dennis started visiting more often. Claudia was still kind. Still brought casseroles and helped clean, but Dennis? He'd sit on the porch with Shane, talking just loud enough for me to hear. "She needs to toughen up. Everybody's got something wrong with them. You don't see me whining about my arthritis. You're going to waste your prime years playing nursemaid. Don't you want a real partner, Shane?" I told Shane I didn't want Dennis around the kids if he was going to be disrespectful. He said I was overreacting. Then last fall it happened. I was walking back from the mailbox when I heard Joel crying inside. I rushed in. He was sitting on the stairs, tears rolling down his cheeks. Maggie stood by the kitchen, red-faced and quiet. "What happened?" I asked. Joel pointed toward the living room. "Grandpa said you're a burden." I froze. I looked over. Dennis sat there on the couch like nothing happened, sipping his coffee. I asked him flat out, "Did you tell my children I'm a burden?" He shrugged. I told them the truth. They deserve to understand the world they're growing up in. One day they'll look back and realize you held their father back, that you weren't the woman he needed. I couldn't speak. My hands were shaking. My stomach turned. He stood up, walked over to me, and leaned in close like we were conspirators. "It's a shame," he said. "You can't just disappear." I looked him dead in the eye. "Be careful what you wish for." He laughed. One of those condescending, dismissive laughs. "What are you gonna do, sweetheart? Cry me into submission?" I didn't cry. I went upstairs, closed my bedroom door, and stared out the window for a long time. The next morning, I drove to a lawyer's office in Winston-Salem. I filed for divorce, and I filed for full custody. Not out of anger, not at first. It was clarity. Something inside me just clicked. I realized I'd been surviving for years in a house that didn't love me anymore. I was raising kids under the roof of a man who let his father humiliate me, and worse, who stood by and did nothing when it hurt his children. I didn't tell Shane. Not right away. The papers were served 3 days later, a Wednesday. He called me from Charlotte, angry. "What the hell is this?" I told him, flat and calm. "You let your father call me a burden. You stood there and did nothing while he broke our kids' hearts. This isn't just about me anymore. It's about what I will and won't let them grow up thinking is normal." There was silence, then yelling, then silence again. The next day, Dennis showed up at my house, pounded on the door like he owned the place. I didn't open it. He stood on the porch yelling, "You ungrateful leech. You think you can take our family away? This is our house." No, it wasn't. The deed was in my name and Shane's. And now, a court would decide what came next. That week, the calls started. From Shane, from Claudia, from numbers I didn't recognize. 14 calls a day, sometimes more. Texts too, some begging, some threatening, some pretending none of it happened. I didn't mean it like that. Dad's just old-fashioned. Think about the kids. Yeah, I was thinking about the kids. The worst part, Joel started having nightmares. Woke up crying about mommy disappearing because he heard those words, because they burned into his little heart. I started documenting everything, every call, every message, every time Dennis showed up yelling. My lawyer said it was good, that we were building a strong case. I moved in with my sister 2 towns over while we waited for the custody hearing. The kids were safe. We were safe. And Dennis, he was unraveling. The first week after the papers were served, Shane tried to keep it together. By the second week, he didn't. He showed up at my sister's house unannounced one night, banged on the door like a man possessed. My sister, Angie, came to the front with a baseball bat. She's 6 years older than me and doesn't play around. She told him he had 10 seconds to back off her porch before the sheriff got involved. He left, but not before yelling, "You're poisoning them against me." I stood behind her the whole time with Maggie and Joel clutching my sides. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. The truth was doing all the talking now. A week later, I found out something I wasn't supposed to. One of Shane's old coworkers, a woman named Krista, reached out to me on Facebook. We weren't close, just casual acquaintances from a few holiday parties. She sent a simple message. "You deserve to know." Attached was a screenshot. Shane had been having an affair for almost a year with a woman in Charlotte. Her name was Melissa. She was 28, blonde, polished, fake as a plastic lawn flamingo. She worked at a brokerage firm and, from what I could tell, had no problem sleeping with a married man who had 2 kids. I wasn't surprised. I wasn't even hurt. Not in the way I expected. I felt vindicated. It made everything else make sense. The sudden judgment, the guilt tripping, the staying in Charlotte longer than necessary. It wasn't just Dennis whispering poison into his ear. Shane had already left the marriage. He was just trying to paint me as the villain to justify it. I told my lawyer. She nearly clapped. "This changes everything," she said. "If he tries to fight custody, we'll bury him." And that's when things got worse, because the more Shane realized he was losing, the more unhinged he became. He started showing up at the kids' school. Not during pickup, not when it made sense. Random times, trying to pull them aside. Once, Joel came home shaking and said, "Dad told me not to trust you." I filed for a restraining order the next day. A judge granted a temporary one, with a hearing scheduled. Shane was barred from contacting me directly. All communication had to go through the court or our lawyers. That only made Dennis more bold. He showed up at Angie's house while I was at the store. My kids were inside. Angie was in the backyard with her husband. Dennis tried to talk his way in, told the kids he was just there to take them out for lunch. Joel, bless him, slammed the door and called me. He said, "Mom, Grandpa tried to trick us." That was the day I realized Dennis wasn't just bitter. He was dangerous. We installed cameras the next morning. The custody case was still pending, and Shane's lawyer tried to paint me as emotionally unstable, claimed I was overreacting and dramatic due to my illness. They brought up my fibromyalgia like it was a character flaw, said I was unfit because of my limitations. They even called Dennis as a character witness. That backfired because my lawyer had done her homework. She stood up, cool as ice, and said, "Mr. Rollins, did you or did you not tell your grandchildren that their mother is a burden?" Dennis, smug as ever, said, "I told them the truth." And right there, in front of a courtroom full of people, he doubled down, said I was dragging the whole family down, called me a leech, said he wished I would just disappear. There was a moment of silence after that. The judge looked straight at Shane, then at me, then asked Dennis to leave the room. He was escorted out. From that point on, the tone of the case shifted, but the fight wasn't over. I learned that Melissa, Shane's affair partner, was now pregnant. That's when Claudia, my mother-in-law, turned. She called me in tears, said she didn't know any of this, that she thought Shane was just stressed, that Dennis had always been hard on her too, and she looked the other way when he treated me badly. I told her, kindly but firmly, "You don't get to say sorry now. Not when your silence helped him tear me down for years." She begged to see the kids. I didn't say no, but I told her it would be supervised visits only, and Dennis would never be allowed near them again. I never saw Claudia cry before, but she cried on my porch, clutching her purse like it held her dignity. That night, the calls jumped to 23. Shane, Dennis, even Melissa tried to call me, I guess to plead her case. I blocked them all. The divorce was getting ugly, and Shane was unraveling faster than I imagined. He started drinking, missed his own deposition, got into a fender bender and blamed emotional distress. His real estate license got flagged because of a complaint by a former client who said Shane ghosted him halfway through closing. I wasn't celebrating, but I wasn't crying either, because for the first time in years, I wasn't surviving. I was living, making decisions, protecting my kids, holding my own. But the story wasn't done, because the court date was coming. And so was the real storm. The court date came faster than I thought. I sat in the front row of that Wilkes County courtroom, wearing a plain black dress and flats. Nothing flashy, just calm, controlled. Meanwhile, Shane came in late. He looked tired, like someone who hadn't slept in days. His shirt was wrinkled, collar-stained, and he didn't even make eye contact with me. Melissa was with him. She sat in the back, hands folded over her stomach, pregnant belly showing, fake sympathy written all over her face. I didn't look at her long, didn't need to. Her presence said enough. He wanted people to see her, like this was his new family, like I was old news. But the court wasn't there for pity. They were there for facts. And I had plenty. My lawyer stood and calmly explained everything. My diagnosis, my documented flare-ups, the years I held things together for the kids, the sudden emotional abuse, the father-in-law's behavior. We had screenshots of texts, video clips from the porch camera, even the school report that showed Joel's anxiety spikes after visits from Shane. When Shane's lawyer tried to turn it around, claiming I was alienating the children, I didn't have to say a word. The judge read Joel's therapist's written statement aloud. The child has expressed fear of being around his grandfather and confusion about his father's sudden emotional distance. The child has also shown signs of guilt for believing his mother's illness is somehow his fault, based on statements made by family members. There wasn't a dry eye in the courtroom. Claudia sat behind me, sobbing quietly into a tissue. When it was Shane's turn to speak, he tried to clean it up, said he was under stress, said the affair just happened, said he didn't mean for it to go this far. But then the judge asked him, "If your wife is truly unfit, why did you never once file for custody before she filed for divorce?" Shane had no answer. He just looked down. But the twist that changed everything didn't come from him. It came from Claudia. At the very end of the hearing, my lawyer requested to enter a final exhibit into evidence, a voice recording. We all turned to look as the audio played over the court speakers. It was from Claudia's cell phone, a recording she made weeks earlier, without Dennis knowing. A dinner at their house. Shane, Melissa, and Dennis were all there. And in that audio, Dennis said the words that would burn into my brain forever. "We need to make her crack. If we can show she's unstable, the court won't hand her the kids. Melissa's gonna be their new mom anyway." Shane didn't stop him. He laughed. He said, "She's hanging on by a thread anyway. Just a matter of time." I looked at Shane as that played. His mouth opened slightly. He didn't know Claudia had recorded it. She didn't look at him either. She just cried. The courtroom was dead silent. The judge asked Shane's lawyer if they wanted to respond. They declined. When we walked out of court that day, Shane didn't say a word to me, but Dennis did. He stormed up to me in the parking lot, red-faced, shaking. "You manipulative little..." That's as far as he got before court security pulled him away and told him if he approached me again, he'd be arrested. Joel and Maggie were with Angie at home. I didn't want them at court, but when I got back, Joel ran to the door. "Did the judge say we can stay with you?" "Not yet," but I hugged him tight and said, "I'm doing everything I can." The next day, Shane moved out of his Charlotte apartment. Melissa kicked him out. Turns out she heard the audio, too. Claudia sent it to her after the hearing. She wanted Melissa to know exactly what kind of man she was building a life with. Melissa was furious, not because Shane cheated on me, but because he lied to her too. Told her I was crazy, that I abandoned the marriage, and that the kids barely talked to him anymore. When she learned that he was planning to use her as a pawn to win custody, she packed his bags and tossed them on the lawn. And this is where the story twisted again. Because Melissa called me, she left a voicemail that said, "I'm sorry for believing him. I thought you were the bitter ex-wife. I see it now. You were surviving while he was scheming. I never called her back. I didn't need to. Some apologies aren't for accepting. They're for recognizing what kind of world you walked away from." But it didn't stop there. Dennis was furious at Claudia. He found out she gave up the recording. She left him. 43 years of marriage, gone in a week. She moved in with her sister in Boone, filed for separation, and sent me a letter. A real, handwritten one. Said she couldn't live with herself anymore, knowing what she allowed to happen under her roof. That Dennis had been emotionally abusive to her for years, and watching him do the same to me opened her eyes. The man who once ruled the Rollins family like a king was now alone. And Shane, he tried to call, left voicemails at midnight, slurring his words, said he missed the kids, said he didn't know how we got here. But we did, and I knew exactly how. And now, the court was about to decide everything. The final custody ruling came exactly 5 weeks after that courtroom bombshell. I got full physical and legal custody. Shane was granted supervised visitation, twice a month, with a court-appointed monitor. No overnights, no unsupervised calls, all handoffs to be done in public, with either my attorney or the court liaison present. Any violation, and all visits would be suspended. When the judge read the final decision, I didn't cry. I didn't smile either. I just sat still, holding my breath, until it was over. Shane didn't look at me once. Dennis didn't even show up. I walked out of that courthouse and felt the sun on my face for the first time in what felt like years. Joel and Maggie didn't fully understand what the ruling meant, but when I told them, "We're staying together. You're safe now." Joel hugged me so hard he knocked my glasses off. And Maggie, who had been so quiet through all this, whispered, "I was scared he'd take us." That wrecked me. For a while after, I thought that would be the end of it, that they'd all slink away. But shame doesn't silence people like Dennis and Shane. They turn their failure into a story, a lie. Shane started telling people I manipulated the system, that I weaponized the kids. He told mutual friends I faked my illness, used Claudia to spy on him, and destroyed the family out of spite. He played the victim like he was auditioning for an Emmy. A few people bought it. Most didn't, especially after Claudia wrote a long, brutal Facebook post. She laid everything out. The affair, the lies, the manipulation, the audio recording. She didn't defend herself, either. She admitted to her silence, her part in it all, and said she had enabled the very man who crushed his wife and betrayed his children. It got shared over 3,000 times in our area. Word traveled fast in a small town. Shane tried to get her to delete it, threatened to sue her. She told him, flat out, "Try it, and I'll subpoena every dirty email you ever sent." He backed off. Meanwhile, Dennis, he lost everything. Not just his wife, not just his son's respect, but his standing in town. He'd been a deacon at his church for over 20 years. People used to call him Brother Rollins with respect. But after the recording leaked, yes, someone in court posted it anonymously, he was asked to step down. His own pastor told him he'd become a source of division and harm. The man who used to look down on me like I was dirt was now eating at the Hardee's by himself every morning. I know because people kept sending me pictures of him alone. I never replied. I didn't want revenge by humiliation. I just wanted to move on. But karma didn't need help from me. One night about a month after the custody ruling, Shane left me a voicemail. He sounded out of it. Said, "I don't know how to fix this. Melissa's gone. My license is suspended. I think I'm losing it." Then silence. I didn't call back. I didn't need to. His spiral wasn't my responsibility anymore. But Maggie heard the voicemail the next morning by accident. I'd left my phone on the table while pouring cereal. She played it without asking. "Why does he sound like that?" she asked wide-eyed. I didn't lie. I said, "Because some people don't know how to live with the consequences of their choices." She nodded, then said something that hurt more than anything Dennis ever said to me. "I don't think I trust him anymore. I don't even know who he is." Joel didn't say anything, but I saw the way he kept looking out the window for the rest of the morning, waiting, watching, hoping his dad might just come back, not physically, but the version of him that used to be good. That version was gone. Months passed. I got stronger. The kids went back to regular school and made friends. I started working again, part-time, helping a local small business run their books. It felt good to use my mind again, to contribute, to rebuild. We even got a dog, a little golden retriever named Sandy. Then, one day, Claudia came to visit. Just her. She brought an old photo album. Said, "These are yours now. You were the only one who actually fought for them." Inside were pictures of my kids, baby photos, birthdays, holidays, all ones I hadn't seen in years. She'd saved them, quietly, in secret, because she said she always knew one day Shane would fall apart, and I'd be the only one left standing. She looked me in the eye and said something I'll never forget. "You were never a burden. You were the only one in this family who ever carried anything." I hugged her. For the first time in a long time, I believed her. As for Shane, he moved in with a buddy out in Gastonia. Still jobless. Melissa had the baby and filed for sole custody, too. I heard she didn't even put his name on the birth certificate. When child support notices started coming, he posted a breakdown on Facebook and deleted his account hours later. Dennis, Rumor is he tried to reconcile with Claudia. She sent him divorce papers instead. And me? I sleep at night now. Not because life is perfect. It's still hard. I still get tired. I still have flare-ups. But I sleep without fear. Without someone standing over me, judging my every move. Without someone teaching my kids that love comes with shame. The revenge wasn't about taking anyone down. It was about rising, when they thought I'd stayed down forever. And now, they're the ones calling, 14 times a day, begging for a second chance. But I already gave them that. Years ago. And they wasted it.